Hi, and welcome to this section on learning scales for the ukulele. Before we really dive into the supplemental section for learning scales for the ukulele, I just wanted to go over with you briefly on what scales were. So, scales are basically a series of notes that differ in pitch that are ascending meaning going this way, or descending meaning going this way. Okay, so going ascending, going up, higher, descending, going lower. Okay, so these musical notes that follow in a sequence of pitches are usually contained in an octave. Okay, and they're made up of the scale can be repeated into another octave. Okay. But we won't get into that. If you decide to go into further music, it'll come up if you're studying music. We talked about, first of all, I want to just show a couple of things. If please take note that the scale is per line, per space. So here's it. The first note is on a line, next one's on a space, next one's on a line, next one's on a space, next one's on a line, next one's on a space, on a line, finally ending on a space. Okay, so the scale has to go through the staff, covering line and spaces. They cannot skip. Okay. We talked about in previous videos in the section about theory of music for ukulele, how music kind of follows an alphabetical system. Okay, and after G, as you remember, after G we always repeat the A. Okay. So in other words, the system is from A to G, then repeat the A. Okay, but here, for this scale, in the key of C, it starts from C, ends with C. So it'll go C, D, like in other words, alphabetical system, C, D, E, F, G, and like we said earlier, whenever you come to G, you always repeat the A. So here's the A, and then you continue the alphabetical system. So in other words, like the alphabet A, B, C. Okay, we stop wherever we start, meaning like we started at C, we ended at C. It's all contained in an octave. Some of this terminology may be like overwhelming. Don't worry about it for now. You know, like I said, if you pursue music at a higher level, that's going to come across. The main thing is that you understand the basic idea of scales and how they kind of work. Another popular way of trying to understand scales is the acronym Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. And that's basically the pitch of the scale if you want to try to remember that. So in other words, it'll sound like Do, Re, Mi, Fa, Sol, La, Ti, Do. That's ascending, descending. Do, Ti, La, Sol, Fa, Mi, Do, Re, Do. And that's descending. If you ever saw the movie musical Sound of Music, okay, they had this segment or a section in the movie where they're teaching the kids how to understand music, and they use this kind of a terminology. Very interesting. It really gives a perspective on understanding it. But getting back to it, don't worry about the notation. Just concentrate on the scale, and this is how it looks. Keep in mind that I'm using the C scale. Okay, it's your first basic. It is the easiest scale. This is the easiest key for presenting this information on scales. As we go into different scales, notation-wise or writing-wise or reading it off of paper, it gets a little more involved, a little more complicated, because then sharps and flats will come into the picture, and it's like it'll take a little bit more understanding. Because I don't think it's hard. It'd be just like reading a road map. You know, there'd be just more symbols to be aware of. Okay, let's see here. Don't overwhelm yourself with all this information. The basic take home from this presentation is just to understand the concept of how the scale looks on paper or how it works. Okay, you have already learned the C scale, the C major scale, which is this, so you know how to play it. So this is how it looks on paper, and this is how the notes look, and this is how it looks musical. So don't let it overwhelm you. Just know that as we go on from here, we're going to be playing more scales. So just think of this basic idea as you go through more scales. Okay, so, but don't get too overwhelmed or too bogged down with all of this. This is just to get you kind of a basic foothold on the idea of how scales work and how they look. Now, keep in mind, scales are really fun to have, really good to use. They're just really important, especially if you're going to go beyond just strumming the ukulele and singing with it. Scales are used for a lot of melodies, playing melodies, improvisation, and little melodic lines. Improvisations meaning when someone's playing like a little fancy lead or a fancy lick, or instrumental, or the instrumental section in the music. That's what improvisation means. Okay, so you have like many styles and many ways of improvisating, or some people call it jamming, or playing these musical creative lines. Okay, and this is the start of it, to understand how it works. Keep in mind, there are many keys to play scales, so there are many scales. Okay, not only that, there are many types of scales. Okay, so for instance, there's the major scales, there's the minor scales, there's pentatonic scales that are used in popular in rock music, contemporary music, blues music. We'll be covering some pentatonic scales later on in the supplement. Just keep in mind, what I'm trying to say is that there are many types of scales for all kinds of types of music, rock, blues, country, jazz, even world music. World music is music from other countries, other cultures that follow a different musical pattern, and they have their own scales. Okay, with that being said, let's get back to the idea of, for now, we just want to understand the basic idea of the scale. We're using the concept of the C scale. This is how it looks. There are no sharps and flats. It goes in an ascending sequence or a descending sequence of musical pitch. Okay, so at this time, please watch this tutorial several times and try to get a fairly good understanding of this tutorial. It's not important to really try to figure everything out, but basically just understand the general idea for the how the scale looks on paper, how it will sound. Well, you already know how it sounds because you already played the C major scale, but have a fairly good understanding about this basic presentation, and when you're ready, we'll see you at the next lesson.